you thought you had, and then you found yourself pulled right back under again. Like, it's a key to unlock areas in your life that you would not get access over without prayer and fasting. There's a guy in the Bible that's commonly referred to as the rich young ruler. The rich young ruler approaches, I'm just going to give you a brief overview as we kind of walk through that scripture. He approaches Jesus very enthusiastically, and he's proud of himself, but he wants to boast about himself and impress Jesus. He was excited to talk to him. Jesus, doing what he does best, cuts right to the point and starts challenging this young man's thought process and perceptions. And he asked him the question, why do you call me good? And Jesus was able to tell some things just by how he answered that question. And this young man was looking for a bargain. He didn't want to change. He just wanted Jesus to bless. He was looking for a quick fix. Jesus let this young man know that he needed to obey the commandments too. And the young man was like, good, I've been doing that my entire life since I was a little boy. And then Jesus again gets right to the point. Says, I know you're a person of great wealth. I want you to take all that you have and distribute it. And then Jesus goes on in details, specifically telling him how he should distribute it. Then when you get rid of all of your money, then come follow me. And that was too much for this young rich ruler, and he walks away defeated and downcast. Just like the multitude that would be interested, their curiosity would be piqued, and they would follow the crowd to Jesus to see things, to witness things, maybe just so they can go back and say, look what I saw. Instead of leaning in as the crowd dissipates and people kind of go back to doing their own thing, but I'm digging in and I'm not going anywhere. And then my life is impacted for eternity. And then I go back to the people that I was going to go back to before and say, not just listen to what I saw, but look at what this man Jesus did in my life. I know you heard about the guy that couldn't walk, and Jesus encountered him and spoke the word, and he was healed. I know that visually that's impactful. But listen to what I tell you. On the inside, I was dead. On the inside, I was dark. On the inside, I didn't know which way was up. And then this man, Jesus, you might not be able to see it, but believe me when I tell you, I'm different. I'm changed. I'm brand new, and it was only because of this man, Jesus. But those stories don't pull us in with the curiosity as much as, oh, this guy only had one leg, and look, boom. Like, that gets the attention. That's interesting. But don't dismiss what Jesus does. Don't just walk away with the crowd because he didn't hold your attention. Lean in, draw near, dig in your heels, don't quit, don't stop. This man, this young rich ruler, had an opportunity to receive everything that he was longing for, but he held his money, his riches, in higher regard than he did Jesus. It's probably safe to say that if there's someone in your life that you admire their faith and you hold their walk with Jesus in a high regard, it's probably due to their ability to deny themselves. If you look at people and be, man, like their faith, their walk with Jesus, like not on a pedestal, just that's what I want. They got to that position, they got to that ability as a result of denying themselves. Why don't we see in Scripture that Jesus just tells us when he's going to return? In Scripture, whenever people ask him, he answers with, just watch. They ask him when, and he just tells them, nobody knows when, just watch, just be ready. God knew that if we knew when he would return, we would just bargain with him. We would negotiate when the time came. For example, if Jesus told us today that he's coming back on the 21st day of our time of prayer and fasting, I want you to think of how you would live today versus how you would live on the 20th day of prayer and fasting. Just be honest. If Jesus told you today, I'm going to come back on that 21st day of prayer and fasting, so we know, okay, I got how many days? How would you live today compared to how you would live on that last day before his return? He doesn't want us to know when. He just wants us to watch. Secondly, the denial of self doesn't negotiate. Look again at Matthew 16:24. Then Jesus said to his disciples, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross. There's no negotiating. I heard a joke once about a guy, his dad was sick in the hospital, just a short time to live. His dad was sick, and he asked him, if you want, Dad, if you could know, would you want to know when you're going to die? And he looked at his son and said, no, I don't want to know when I'm going to die. I would want to know where I'm going to die. He said, why would you want to know where you're going to die versus when you're going to die? And the dad said, because if I knew where I was going to die, I would never go there. This is where we're going to die. When we stop denying ourselves and start denying him. That's the beginning of the end. When we refuse to deny self, that's initiating an internal death, if you will. Because the only way change, breakthrough, victory is less, you can get the hat with the little symbols, less of him, more of me, it's a cool little logo, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't apply it. Less of me, more of him. Less of self, more of him. Jesus looked at Peter while they're having dinner and told him, Peter, you're going to deny me. Peter was supposed to deny himself, not Jesus. Peter responds with a resounding, I would never deny you, Jesus. I can't help but think a lot of us would respond the same way. And rightfully so. Like, if Jesus said, you are going to deny me, I would think we would have enough faith to look at him and say, I would never do that. Can you imagine if Peter would have responded with humility? Jesus says, Peter, you're going to deny me. Instead of Peter saying, I would never. What happens if Peter would say, oh my gosh, can you, Father, Rabbi, pray for me that I would never stray, that I would never think of me in a higher regard than I think of you, that if somebody asked me if I knew you, I would protect myself instead of protecting you. Pray for me, lay hands on my head, anoint me with oil, that I would never be that guy that you say I will be. How much different would the story be? How much different would our story be if Jesus is asking us to surrender a part of self in exchange for something more of him, deeper of him? And we may not look him in the eye and say, thanks, but no thanks. But our actions dictate a boldness just like that, where we would deny him before we would deny self. When Jesus tells Peter this, Peter isn't heartbroken or devastated. He just starts negotiating. I'm not that guy, Jesus. I would never do that. You must be thinking about Bartholomew, like one of the lesser guys. Not me. I'm the one who walked on water. God isn't trying to trap you, and there's no place for negotiating. He just wants you Give him your heart. Give him your all, including all of your hurt, your shame, your guilt, your questions, your concerns, your doubt. Give it all to him and trust him. Thirdly, the denial of self begins with a very sincere heart. Look at Matthew 16:25. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. I don't know where you're at in your faith right now. It doesn't even really matter that much whether or not I know. But you need to know where you're at in your faith journey right now. I just want to encourage you to do an honest assessment because it's your move. We're playing a game. We're playing checkers. I moved. Now it's your turn. It's your move. You can probably figure out what I mean by it's your move. We're going to go to Old Faithful here, James 4:8. Draw near to God and he'll draw near to you. It's your move. He's there. He's here. He's beckoning. He's longing. Everything within him is wanting everything within you. But you have ambitions, and you have a marriage, and you have kids, and you have a job, and you have all of those things. It doesn't mean that you can't enter into everything that he is because you have those things. He just wants to be Lord of all of those things. And when we look at it through that lens, how much more, how much better will all of those things be with Jesus in the position of lordship over every single one of those things? You want a good marriage? Put him first. You want your kids to be healthy and live long lives and blessed and encouraged and positive, hope-filled people? Put Jesus first in their lives. You want a better situation, environment at your job? Put him first before you even get out of your car in the parking lot. You can't walk through the door without him going through the door first. Take him with you every day. You can spend the next 21 days trying to negotiate something from God. God, I'll give up sugar if you just... I've done it. I'm not stepping on your toes. Like, I've done it. You can't do it trying to negotiate something from him. Just simply draw near to him. Trust him. Not to just hear your prayers, give you something, but trust that he'll see your heart, that he'll see your pursuit, your white-knuckle tenacity to just be wherever he is, just spending time in his presence. It's your move. Stay seated. We're going to take a move. I heard a story about Billy Graham, or as I like to refer to him as Uncle Billy. He was sick and he was near death. A pastor asked him how he lived such a long life of ministry with such integrity and honor. Uncle Billy replied, "I've always known the end would come, so I've tried to live with the end in mind." Then this pastor asked Billy Graham, "Would you pray for me?" To which Billy Graham replies, "Yes. Would you pray for me?" To which this man felt like he should run out the door. Like, how am I going to pray for thee, Billy Graham? And then this pastor said, I'm going to give you some sound advice that I used on the great Billy Graham. I turned the tables and said, "How would you like me to pray for you, Brother Billy Graham?" And he told this pastor, "Pray for me that I finish the race strong and I never lose my first love." You know, this is the same Billy Graham that stood on a stage for decades, for generations, and led thousands and hundreds of thousands of people to Jesus on his deathbed. And his dying wish, his dying prayer was that he would finish the race strong and never lose his first love. How much different would Maya made the joke with the technical difficulties earlier, like, ever have a Sunday that feels like a Monday? Like that's a saying that registers with us because Mondays are typically not great. You have a weekend, which typically means maybe don't work. Monday's your first day back to reality, and it's kind of What if we faced every with focused on my first love? And like, Jesus wasn't my first love, but it's talking about Jesus. All right? Like, I don't want that to not land. Well, I've had plenty of loves. That's not what I'm saying. Of his lordship, his kingship, his reign of Lord and King of our lives. That's the rightful position. And when I look at him as my first love, as the number one love of my life, then everything else, whatever the of Monday, I'm seeing that. I'm seeing my coworkers, the task, the list through finishing the race strong and through the lens of my relationship with my first love. It alters how you see and perceive everything. We're not just kind of swaying in the wind, whatever happens, happens. No, I am focused and determined. Whatever the of my day has, I'm going to face it head on with the love of my life next to me and with the integrity of the call upon my life in me. That's it. I love Real Life Church. But Real Life Church isn't anything without each and every one of you. You're Real Life Church. So what would 2025 look like if we enter into these 21 days of our fast, asking? I think we're pretty good at that for the most part. But I won't slam any doors, but it's my visual and audible example of mom, hey mom, hey mom, can I, hey mom, about that like 300th mom, you don't even hear anymore. Versus like a door slam or tire screeching, mom, like I'm on the way, right? It's different. It's the same thing with moments like this. I'm not talking about asking, hey God, hey God, yo God, Jesus, hello, God. It's a posture. It's a heart thing. It's not, can you meet my list of demands? It's surrender. Because what you're asking for, you may not, in the natural, you may not even realize you need it or want it yet. But when we deny self, when we deny what I think, what I want, and we say, I trust you that you created me with this. So I'm asking you to bring whatever it is that's in me that I am not using, that I forgot or never even realized was there. And Father, I'm asking you to bring it back to the surface and let me see it, receive it, and use it for your glory. Open my eyes to recognize what you have wanted to be birthed in me that I have yet to bring it to pass. Ask. Seek. The difference from your favorite fork to your kid. I'm going to find better examples. The remote. I said your pacemaker last week, and it's right here. I don't know. Something that you have to have. Nikki wasn't in here for that one. She's like, oh my gosh. Something that's necessary, something that you have to have, versus something that it'll turn up. It's probably in the couch cushion. Versus, well, we can't. We have to find it right now. Like, that's the type of seek. Seek Him. Ask Him and seek what He has created you for. Seek out your purpose. Seek out your call. And then knock. And don't stop knocking. I got so distracted. I just thought of a cheat. You keep on knocking, but you can't come in, right? It's like a joke. Sorry. Jesus. This is real life church. Forgive me. Knocking. Not just like, anybody home? Nope. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to keep asking. I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to seek. And I'm not going to stop knocking. I'm not going to stop knocking until you open the door. Open the doors of my future. Open the doors of my promise. Open the doors of my destiny, of my purpose, of my healing, of my victory. Whatever's on the other side of whatever's in front of me, I'm not stopping knocking until you open it and give me access to what's on the other side. What would your 2025 look like if that's what you committed to? Asking, seeking, knocking, fasting, and praying. Start living with the end in mind. Deny yourself. I know that's not, woohoo, deny myself. Let's go. I can't wait to get started. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. And there's going to be moments like this. But based on what Scripture is telling us, it's worth it. And not only is it worth it, but it's necessary in order to unlock some things in your life. If you're like I was and have been, and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you're sick and tired of going through the same thing over and over and over in your life, commit to asking, seeking, knocking, praying, and fasting. Allow the discipline and the rhythm of that to be used by Him to unlock things in your life and give you access to things that can give you victory over things in your life. You're not a victim. You're a king's kid. Come on, Andrew. You guys can come up and get communion while he's getting ready.